And there's a giant picture of President Trump on this article. I don't know why. He doesn't have anything to do with this legislation, but that's how journalists like to operate, I suppose. So the headline is Kentucky Republicans aim to legalize force against homeless trespassers. I don't know why force is in quotes, because they're actually aiming to legalize force against homeless trespassers. In fact, it was already legal under Kentucky law to use force against a simple trespasser. You could use non-deadly force to remove a simple trespasser from your property. But there are some additional provisions here. And those against this HB 5 bill, the Safer Kentucky Act bill, are trying to suggest that Kentucky has made it lawful to use deadly force against homeless trespassers. That's not how I read the bill at all. But of course, they're trying to use fear to generate resistance to this Safer Kentucky Act bill working through the legislature. By the way, the legislature in Kentucky is super majority Republican. The governor is a Democrat. I believe his name is Andy Beshear, but the supermajority of Republicans in the legislature can override his veto. So he'll almost certainly veto this bill, and then that's what will be required to make this bill law. And I can tell you that there's a lot of facets of this bill that certainly look attractive to me, because I live in Colorado, not far from Denver. And Denver's, in the last 5 years, has come to look like San Francisco. Tent cities everywhere, crime completely out of control, criminals not being held accountable, and with the totally predictable results of what we have here in Colorado. Ironically enough, just a week or two ago, my wife and I were exploring, and we are continuing to explore, moving to Kentucky from Colorado. And then this bill comes up, which only makes Kentucky look more attractive to me. I will be discussing this bill with Miss Emily when I get home. So, the news article, Kentucky Republicans aim to legalize force against homeless trespassers. A new Republican-backed bill in the Kentucky legislature has been accused by critics of trying to legalize deadly physical force against the homeless in certain scenarios. We'll see if that's true when we get to that bill. The bill, dubbed the Safer Kentucky Act, but officially known as HB 5, was introduced last week by Republican State Representative Jared Bauman and has already garnered 52 co-sponsors, with a vote set to take place next week. Well, that was quick. The bill includes a sweeping number of provisions, but critics of it have put a particular spotlight on its anti-homeless measures. HB 5 includes provisions that deem the use of force justifiable against homeless people camping on their property if they believe that criminal trespass, robbery, or unlawful camping is occurring on said property. Again, they're conflating force with deadly force for obvious propaganda purposes. Going further, the bill also deems deadly physical force justifiable if a defendant believes a homeless individual is attempting to dispossess them of their home or rob them of their property or commit arson. Well, all of that, dispossessing of your home, that's defense of highly defensible property. Robbery is obviously a forcible felony against a person, and arson is a deadly force crime. So all of those were already sufficient to justify the use of deadly defensive force and are not changed by this bill. But again, they have to conflate these things for propaganda purposes. While introducing the bill, Bauman defended its provisions and insisted that HB 5 is intended to focus on accountability for serious criminal behavior. Critics, meanwhile, have warned that it will result in unnecessary violence and death. Louisville Councilwoman Shemeka Parrish Wright warned that HB 5 could essentially criminalize poverty. Louisville is the most violent city in Kentucky, with a rate of 6.9 violent crimes per 1,000, according to a May 2023 report. What's Denver? I wonder what Denver is. Let's see if I can Google that real quick. It says 7.5 crimes per 1,000 residents is what Google tells me. I think that's an underestimate, frankly. But still substantially higher than Louisville, the most violent city in Kentucky. Let's see. Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg stressed that a solution is needed, but he also cast doubt on whether HB5 is the bill to do so. I tell you one thing I find interesting about this HB5 bill. Like I said, it's 72 pages. It has a ton of different provisions. This is not something that this sponsor, Bauman, just snapped together out of thin air. This has been in the planning stages for a long, long time. And this is how the left passes legislation. They come up with these enormous bills that have their wish list of things they've been dreaming of for decades, and the moment they get into power, they pass it all into law. So maybe the Republicans in Kentucky are learning to fight the game using the same rules that the progressive left uses. Let's see. Mayor Craig Greenberg said there's a broad consensus that Louisville has a serious violent crime problem. There's less consensus on how to effectively solve that problem. Linda Pryor, CEO of the Louisville Urban League. So that would be a poverty advocacy organization. Quote, "We're going to get people killed. This is just the unfortunate fact. We have decided that as a society, some people are not worthy of human respect and dignity, and we are able to treat them in completely inhumane ways." Eric Tars, the senior policy director for the nonprofit National Homeless Law Center, again, another homelessness advocacy group, quote, "This is teeing up vigilantism against people experiencing homelessness on a scale that we've never seen before. It's a really concerning escalation." By the way, let me show you some pictures of what Denver looks like today. It did not look like this 5 years ago. Let's see. I'm going to pull up some photos I just screen captured off of recent news reports in the Denver area. And you can ask yourselves if you want to live like this and in your neighborhood looks like this. These are semi-permanent encampments, folks. They're there for weeks and months. They all look like this. And like this, just tent cities, and like this. Are we really being humane to these people? That is what HB5, in part, what HB5 is attempting to address. HB5's likelihood of passing in the Kentucky state legislature is strong, as Republicans hold sizable majorities in both houses, I guess, while the state does boast a Democrat governor. So having a Democrat governor is a boast. Otherwise, they'd have to, if they had a Republican governor, they would be shamed. But they can boast to have a Democrat governor in Andy Beshear, but the GOP majorities in the legislature are large enough to override his ability to veto bills. And that's that.